Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Riveting Trips with Jeanie Colclough. I'm your host. And on today's episode, I have my dear friend Cristina from Galavanta, and she's going to talk all about Colombia. And you may think that Colombia may not be the best place to take your kids, but I totally disagree. And we're going to talk about why you should definitely consider Colombia for your next family vacation. Okay, so Christina, take it away. Please introduce
Thank
yourself and your
you,
company.
everyone, for out this session. My name is Cristina. I am co-founder of Galavanta. I started the company 10 years ago with my husband. He's French. I'm Colombian. We were doing our MBAs in Montreal and McGill, and I said, no, we're moving back home. With And we started Galavanta with the objective of doing something different, something um, me. And over the years, we've really seen a huge potential. And we have a family of our own. We have a 3-year-old, five, two boys travel with us. Thank you. And
Congratulations.
they're the ones that travel with us all over Colombia, scouting out property experiences. So, over the years, we've designed all of these, cool experiences based on our experience with them.
Okay, so let's talk about Colombia. People don't realize, like, if you're coming from North America, right? How long does it take to get there, and what are the major points of entry
So
for a
Colombia
flight to
does offer
Colombia?
connectivity to the US and, well, for the US, we can fly into Cartagena from Miami and Atlanta. Also, JetBlue has direct flights from New York. Miami is about 2.5 hours. Atlanta is about three, bit, 4, and then New York is almost 5 hours. But really, it's a quick nap, and then you're in South America. It's a completely different world. Same time zone, which is a huge benefit. Flying into
It is.
Bogota, you have many more options coming in from Houston, Dallas, Miami, New York, Chicago, Boston, Montreal, and Toronto as well. So lots of options to fly in. And from Bogota, very easy to Medellin is only 35 minutes. Cartagena is about an hour and a bit, an hour and 10 minutes. And connectivity is very easy.
Right. Yeah, I think what I we took our kids to Colombia, I think during a spring break, right? And so we split our time in Bogota and then Cartagena. And, one thing that if you do go to Colombia, it's better to take kind of the inter-country flights, right? Because maybe driving is not the most conducive or the best way to use your time at all. So definitely book flights and private transfers. But in terms of activities for, let's say, families that have young kids, and then we'll talk about families with like tweens who are more active, and there are a lot of active activities you could do in Colombia. Could you first address like kids who are a little bit younger, maybe toddlers or under tweens, maybe?
Uh, yeah, so I think a great destination for the younger kids, I would say the Caribbean coast is fantastic. Cartagena, here we have things like cooking classes. My toddlers just love cooking, chocolate workshops, surfing classes. Our surfing instructor is so great. He
Mm,
speaks perfect English. He has my almost 5-year-old already standing up on the surfboard, so patient. The waves are
wow.
still relatively small, and he has a great team. You get shirt, you get photos. So, that those experiences are really great. In Cartagena, we also have these really great uh, eh, pirates, tales, and treasure hunts, right? That way the parents can be out, with the history and learning history. And at the same time, right beside the kids are with a local buccaneer. And, we have all the gear, the pirate patches, and the hats, and the swords. They're off hunting for treasures. And at the same time, right beside the parents are having a just about history. It's sometimes hard for one, where we want to learn about, get a more deep experience with a guide.
Yeah.
We have toddlers and get a bit cranky. We're hungry. Keeping them entertained is a great way. Cartagena is so full of
Yes.
history and cultures. As a way, tackle both parents. In addition,
Right. Cartagena has that name, Cartagena de Indias, right? So it's got I mean, when we were there, it was interesting to learn about the history of the Cartagena
yeah,
and how the demography of Cartagena looks very different from like people from Bogota, and then the language spoken or the Colombian accent on the
So
coastal
different,
versus the city.
so different.
I felt like I was in 2 different countries, right? It's in a very s yeah, small country, you can
But
experience different cultures.
different culture, different accent. You go into the coffee region, they're different. You go to the Llanos, which is where the wine life is, they're different. Traveling Colombia is like traveling, to many countries. One, going back to your other question about, what are the experiences for those teens or preteens? They're the ones who want to get more active. Here we do a
Yeah,
kayaking and paddleboarding on these beautiful rivers, howler monkeys, beautiful picnic on the river, surfing classes, but a little bit more we could do them snorkeling or even do scuba diving. Great instructors was you can do, your first steps into scuba diving. Really, really calm waters in Medellin, super cool city. And a lot of people say, oh, Medellin, I'm not quite sure. But Medellin is fascinating. You're going into las comunas, which were the most dangerous, was one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the world back in the 80s.
yes,
Thriving neighborhood full of street art, music, a cool people, culture, and he. Teenagers in there. We do this with a rapper. He's recorded songs with Jake Baldwin. When you go into the recording studio, look at that social innovation. Look where we have gone in through patient art, a rural development,
right,
planning, and modes of transportation. And then you finish the morning with a learn to play drums, trash can with a pin can, with these
right,
awesome local musicians. And then you do your street art workshop. The next thing you can go eat right. The next thing you can go trek into the waterfalls. The next thing you can ATV, horseback riding. So many, a really cool city, but within 45 minutes out in the countryside. And there's tons of options. We can go and them on a helicopter to Guadalupe, go, e-foil, jet ski,
wow.
wakeboarding. It's stunning, stunning landscape.
I think the opportunities are endless in Colombia. I think I really want to take this time to dispel myths of the danger. I think everyone remembers, like, growing up here in the US back in the '80s, they said Colombia was really dangerous, the drug cartels. And, I've been wanting to go to Colombia before we actually went last year, the year before, for like 20 or 30 years, right? Because I think Colombia had been coming out of that. And you go there and you realize, wow, if all you do is read news headlines, then yes, you would be scared. It was interesting to see, like, our guides were talking about actually it was Venezuela that's not as safe, to be quite honest. But I think in terms of Colombia, we didn't feel like our safety was very paramount. We were very cognizant of where we were. Every place was fine. Everybody was very friendly to us. And and going back to Cartagena when we were there, the other thing that we did, we took our kids out to the Rosario Islands, right, for snorkeling. So that's very gentle and calm if you have kids that are younger and you just want to spend days at like beaches that are about 45 minutes outside of Cartagena, right? Maybe and then we also went to Barrow Island to the aviary, and we learned that Colombia is the second most biodiverse country in the world after Brazil. In that little piece of space that you guys have so much to offer for nature enthusiasts. My son loves birds, so we let him like pick a bird tour. The guy that we picked ended up being like a bird enthusiast. So, I mean, the tour was obviously for my son. My daughter's like, okay, but my son it's like, "Oh my god, this place is awesome," right? There's so much to do, so much to see, so much to experience, and the food was clean and healthy and fresh because it's the tropical and region in Cartagena. So I think there's that. I have a question for you though. In terms of staying, we stayed in the city walls, and I know sometimes clients wanna stay, like, near the islands. Do you have a preference for what kind of family should
For you,
stay in one area versus
I
another?
I think you can normally do a combination. Um, I would suggest at least 3 nights of Old City. There's quite a lot of great restaurants. It's very easy, safe, as you mentioned, to walk around. Well, great place to
Right.
end the trip. after you've been flights, driving, doing more experiences, do some experience. Old City is a great place to wake up, go to the pool, have a massage, go shopping. The shopping is phenomenal. Go to restaurants and just gallivant, through the old city on your own. That
Right.
was
Oh,
the security aspect. As a woman, I'm here in the old city. We live in the old city. I walk by myself and with my I feel safer in Cartagena than I do in Europe. So it's funny, and not just because we're here, but our French family counterparts also feel that way. Um, and so it is that great place to the trip. And if you do have 2 or 3 extra, we go out to Barichara, the Reserve Islands for that Robert little island hopping that you mentioned,
right.
speedboat. You go visit the Reserve Island at early afternoon hotel, and then just relax. There was another full day of just proper already, and then go back. There's some great hotels, very family friendly. Yeah, so we did Galavanta, which more of a resort, but still very local. A beautiful white sand beach, great club, lots of nautical activities. You know, 25 minutes driving from the aviary. So lots of really good activities for the and
Right.
also great restaurants and activities, gym for parents. And then if you do want something more private, there's some beautiful private islands, private villas further down in Peru, in the Resort Island.
Okay.
Island is stunning, top of the line.
Yeah, and if you have not been out to the Rosario Islands, I would definitely include that on your trip to Colombia because they are beautiful. The water's like it changed when we were on the boat ride from we stayed in the Citadel section of the city. So our driver picked us up and we just took the ride and the water changes kind of colors like this deep cerulean blue to like kind of aquamarine blue and it's just turquoise. It's very beautiful and very calm. There was also a couple of ladies like on small little boats and like selling things along the way if you stop. So I think you get to see a little bit of culture like that, right? It is fun. How about Bogota? Because Bogota in terms of elevation, do you think they should start in Bogota or end in Bogota because of the elevation change? Because Cartagena is at sea level, but
Think that
Bogota is higher up in elevation.
plans to be in Bogota, honestly, because of elevation, but more because it's where you get most international flights. Start, arrive. The elevation is high,
Okay,
not as high as the Pass or Cusco, where you do need to work it out. Um,
right.
very rarely we have,
Acclimate to it, yeah.
2 years. I can kind of with one hand the times that we had the medical issues. So elevation wise, it's good. We just recommend hydrate. You'll maybe feel it when you're walking up some stairs, but aside from that, you really don't. I hear dark chocolate is a great
Right.
for if you get a little bit of a headache, which is good. Green
That's
chocolate
good.
as well.
Okay. Colombian chocolate is awesome, right? And coffee too. Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember when we were in Bogota, the climate there is much cooler than Cartagena, so we did have to bring separate sets of clothing for 2 cities, right? So, just so that the listeners know that Bogota is much cooler because it is at a relatively I don't remember the actual feet or meters, but it's kind of higher up, so we never were super hot, whereas Cartagena, is it pretty warm all year round because it's kind of on the
Right, about
equator?
8,600 level, and Cartagena is right on the ocean.
Okay,
In terms of temperature, I would say
at
Bogota
sea
will
level,
range
yeah.
between, and I'm gonna have to as centigrade because like my set I use in Celsius.
Celsius, no worries. Everybody else
It's
uses it
gonna be
except for
between
us.
25. If it's a really sunny day, you can go up to 20.
Okay.
In Cartagena, I would say 28 to 32 year round. What varies is mostly the humidity and the wind. So between summer March,
Right.
you're gonna have a lot more dry, and you have the wind north. So it's really nice dry climate. And then from April over to November, we call it the green season because we do get a little bit more rain. But right now, it's supposed to be raining, beautiful blue skies, the outside. You do feel a little more humidity, which feels a little bit more heat, but you can still enjoy a really great throughout Colombia. And what I like this time of the year most is because it's so much green and lush, and you have great kind of, as I said,
Mm.
we're very biodiverse, so we have the migration of the humpback whales in the Pacific coast, the blossoming of kind of cristales,
Oh, wow.
the river of seven colors. You have all these kind of interesting wildlife things happening, kind of just breathe.
That is awesome. Okay, and so my next trip, I'll have to visit those places or experience those things or go to during a different season too, right? Because during different seasons, you experience different activities and, holidays and things like that. How about in terms of holiday planning, right? Should families consider big festivities or in Colombia that they shouldn't miss, or maybe
Yes,
does tourism increase
great
during
question.
certain holidays in
Of
Colombia?
course, best it's quite busy. There's still availability, which is great. We have really cool, family friendly villas. Of course, the hotels that we work with also have an ability where you got to have the as beautiful.
Right. That's a nice
The
place. Yes.
24th is Christmas, you know, very and the 24th, even though usually it's more, it's still quite a bit of, especially the Caribbean. And then on the 31st, love to party. So lots of great party,
Okay.
especially in the old now street, all the streets closed down. Everyone's walking, all the restaurants have their tables out on the street, and you have a party corner. So even just coming and walking around the whole because you guys experience like the the fireworks everywhere. Well, you landed with thousand love to death. You love the party.
I remember that because I think the first night we arrived in Cartagena, there was just I don't know if it was a really organized group of people just dancing in the streets, right? In the old town, and, you see the ladies that have, like, the fruit basket thing on the head, dancing, and lots of rhythm, lots of rhythm. Let's go back to Bogota, right? So if that's the first point of entry, what area of town would you recommend clients stay?
We love to work with the Four Seasons. The Four Seasons. Both are great for different. Four
Right.
Seasons Casa Medina, Victorian home from morning. Uh, Lots of character. You feel you're in a local park doors, leather sofas, really beautiful style. And that area there, which is called basically called like this Rosales, or it's part of Rosales. You're 3 blocks from some of the top restaurants in Latin America. So you have Chanta, Leo, all these really cool places. It's also a really nice place to walk around in that neighborhood. Um, and you're also only 20, 25 minutes from an historic district, which is a must because that's where you have the Gold Museum. For
Right.
touring, for families, to give you an idea, the Gold Museum, we we designed these headpieces and these gold style pieces, and the kids wear them, and we call it becomes the bachi, the
Oh,
sivas,
wow.
the sheets wear on gold,
Okay.
and that's what
Yeah.
a lot of these. If you're more into arts, the Botero Museum, go in and the Botero Museum rep for. So there's also some really, if you want to get more on the family side, you can visit a factory, like really nice tea chocolate factory to see how it's actually all produced. The and, you know,
Right to the end, like artisanal kind of small factory or small owner, small
quality,
producers.
and then you
Yes.
have the outskirts thing as well. And then we're just Bogota, which is in the Zona Rosa, like the rose and stone, another great area. It's for
Mhm.
people who want to be more close to the designer shops, Colombian designers, which are thriving right now. Closer to the artsy, also a great restaurant in that area, but it's more of that contemporary style hotel.
But, yeah, I mean, I think when we stayed
It's
near
a
is
great
it Calle
experience
93
for
or something at that kind of general area? And then we, obviously had a tour of Candelaria, that district that has the museums, right? And I remember the graffiti area, that was really cool too. My kids love watching graffiti art and looking at graffiti art, so we did a little graffiti art walking tour. And they both enjoyed the Gold Museum and the Botero Museum. They had never heard of Botero, and I tried to explain to them who Botero was before we went in. And we walked around, they're like my daughter's like, "Why is everybody so fat in all these pictures?" You know? I said, "That's the kind of art he did." Right? He's just that's his style, you know Botero when you see a Botero, right? So she's like, "This is pretty cool." So we just walk around the museum. It's not a very big museum, so it's actually very family friendly because it's manageable in terms of size. It's not like the Louvre that would take you a lifetime to see,
So
right?
just
So the
finding
Botero
people going,
right.
with an expert or with the grandson of the Sarah, you get to learn, why is there so
Yeah,
like all amazing? Why? What is
I know.
she was the lover of and there's all so it really interesting gossip in the days of what they just going in with somebody who knows the
It
gossip
is.
is
Yeah, it was great, and we just an activity that we do with our kids when we go to art museums is, "What's your favorite piece in this room and why?" Right? So we just kinda so because we know they're not gonna see every single piece. We realize they are now currently 10 and a half and 12-year-olds, so and they've been traveling with us ever since they were, like, less than 1, but, now their patience is a little bit greater and their understanding of art is a little bit more expanded. And then the other place was a gold museum. I was so impressed, right, by that gold museum because, you know, the Americas has so much history, the pre-Columbian art we went to Mexico that year too, Mexico City, and we went to the Anthropological Museum in Mexico City, and then the Gold Museum. I was like, "You're only charging $1 for entry? Are you kidding me?" I mean, this place, I know it's geared toward locals and things like that, but the fact that Colombia and this whole epicenter of pre-Columbian history and all this gold, and it was once, in terms of the empire, I'm like, my kids are like, "Wow, how come we don't learn about this stuff at school?" I said, "It's a good question, right? But you're learning about it here while we're traveling in this museum, so your eyes are a little bit more open." But it was a very impressive museum. I was like, "Okay, Botero was cute, but the Gold Museum just blew me away, and I definitely wanna go back to both, as an adult, right?" So, I was just like that. The other thing that we did with the kids was we obviously went to the Salt Mine Cathedral, and I wasn't sure what to think, but I was like, "Okay, who carves out 12 stations of the cross?" So if you're not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about is it
Paquita.
Zipacaria? I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Um, good try.
Okay.
It's Paquita out about an hour to an hour and a half. Bogota depends on traffic. Exactly. It's good to leave
Yeah, when you leave,
early.
try to leave early, right?
Avoid
Yeah.
rush hour. Sorry, not in rush hour. And once you get there, it's actually Paquita is a really nice
Yeah,
place.
exactly.
And I think when we talk about Colombia,
It
it's so
is.
different. Zipaquirá is going to be more a tropical style to an extent with colonial element. If you go 3 hours down the end, it's totally different, and just different. So it's good to see those contrasts. And then you know, work the salt mine, you start going deep, you start feeling the salt. You start a little bit more of the pressure, which is
Right.
you go. It's so impressive to see the uh, these natives can go up to 30. So you feel small as
Right.
this giant being. I don't think the ground. So it's very impressive. If you can do a visit after hours. and they can do a private groups coming. There's groups
Oh,
coming
okay.
in, um, maybe 12 people or even more. We've done these stuff with classical music or lehanga music, a guitar. It's very, very special.
That sounds amazing. I didn't even consider that you
Like
could rent that place out
jazz,
or have a dinner there, a meal.
yeah, yeah. Gold Museum now, there's
Okay.
big stories, but there's a lot of little
Oh,
secrets
wow.
that go, that insider access to other places.
And that's why you should work with a private company like yourself, right? And travel advisors like us. I think that's people don't really understand the type of access we can have access to, right? And they don't understand what's possible out there. They think they could you just book a trip offline or online, just some, and that's fine. But if you have the time and you want to create certain specific memories, instead of buying gifts, maybe buy experiences for your kids. That sounds amazing. Are there other regions of Colombia we should check out? We've talked about
Absolutely.
Bogota, Medellin, and the
Typical popular
coast.
ones are Barichara or Barichara, all Colombian towns in the middle of the Andes. Uh, a little bit difficult to get to, but I think that's why it's so authentic. It's only in like in a 30, 40
Mhm.
years. There's one from one end to the top, the
Okay.
other 20. Very cute cobblestone street,
Oh,
actually
sounds so
inspired
cute and quaint, huh?
of not the Disney. Actually,
Oh, really?
the
Okay.
main character was inspired by a girl who owns a bookshop at the plaza, a Barichara, the main plaza. You could actually go there. I just went. She owns, she sells
Okay.
books, she's super lovely, English, or their black thick skirt. That's exactly what we want.
Are there glasses?
And I am virtually getting up. We love it so much because it's so authentic. It's still really cute. Great little restaurants. It comes with like beautiful things and little artisans. You can spend your days just walking around, going to the restaurant, or like find a whitewater rafting, paragliding, line. Also, it's a really great, a beautiful trek. So you can spend like 4 or 5 days there with non-stop experiences, complete classes like astronomy there. We love this place because it's just away from the crowd,
Okay.
so contained, authenticity. You see the well, party China. And we also love Tairona. Tairona is like the Costa Rica of Colombia. People don't really know that much about it, but this is where you go surfing, trek into waterfalls, kayaking or paddleboarding on these beautiful rivers, hiking up to the cloud forest to, the coffee fields and your cow plantation. So there's a lot of really cool experiences with really great wildlife. It's just 4 hours driving from Cartagena or 1 hour by helicopter. The 4 hours will drive
Okay.
well. Most
Okay.
people don't know about this other destination, but it's also a little bit secret, which is all
Right. For the locals, probably the locals are like, "No, stop coming." Well, I just really wanted to thank you, Christina, for coming on this episode. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we close?
the opportunity that our country with you, your guests, the rest of the world, and for visiting our country when in Colombia, grateful when travelers visiting us from the world because it's our show. Colombia is so much more than what we were back in the 80s and
Right.
90s. And there's a lot of friendly, incredible people here. Amazing culture, amazing cuisine. So thank you for helping us show our country.
No, I think Colombia's a beautiful destination, and if you haven't gone with your family and you are worried about, the Safety, we like I said, we never felt unsafe during our entire trip with our children, and I think our children at the time were 11 and 9 maybe years old, and we walk around, you know, so it was day, morning, night, we walked around, and so I think you have to kind of check those stereotypes by the door and then talk to obviously somebody who's traveled there and works with people who live there, who are locals that can best navigate your travel needs. So if you like this episode, please share with your family and friends. Please follow us on all our socials and hit like and subscribe, and more importantly, let's book a trip to
You.
Colombia. Ciao, ciao, everybody.